If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you.
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Talking with Dr. Donna. This is the quarantine version. As you can tell, I'm not in the studio tonight. And the reason is because COVID has hit my house. Yes, my teenage daughter brought home COVID and it has infected my son. But thankfully, my husband and I are healthy. So thank you for being concerned. But the show must go on, and Talking with Dr. Donna is definitely going to give you something good tonight. So thank you for keeping your appointment with the doctor. You know, every Thursday at 6:30 p.m., you have an appointment with your doctor right here on my YouTube channel where we talk about building generational health. And how do we do that? We build generational health by paying attention to our 4 pillars of health: our emotional and mental pillar, our spiritual pillar of health, our physical pillar of health, and our environmental pillar of health. When we look at all 4 of those pillars put together and we pay attention from every single generation, I truly believe that we can end the cycle of premature death in the Black community. That's our goal here on Talking with Dr. Donna. If this is your first time joining us tonight, welcome. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Go on over to YouTube if you're watching this on Facebook, or if you are watching it on YouTube, go ahead right on up there, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that bell icon right next to it so that every time we go live, you will get notified. Thank you for tuning in tonight. This is March 3rd. This is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And today, even though I'm not in the studio, we're going to have a talk by our GI specialist extraordinaire, Dr. Ralph Peterson, who practices in Oakland, California, right here where I'm based. We're going to talk tonight about what's a FIT test. What should I get tested? How do I get tested? What's the screenings that I should use? When should I get a colonoscopy? All of those questions that you should know the answers to help prevent colorectal cancer in your life or in the life of a loved one. But before we get to Dr. Peterson, I also want to give a shout out because March is also Women's History Month, and I want to give a shout out to my girl, Whitney Houston, probably my favorite singer. She probably singularly was responsible for all of my hairdos in the late 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. If Whitney Houston had a hairstyle, Dr. Donna had that hairstyle too. But Miss Whitney Houston is a 6-time Grammy Award winner who also still to this day holds the record for the highest selling song with her Dolly Parton rendition of I Will Always Love You. Now, you know I'm from the country, so I knew Dolly Parton's version, and I love Dolly Parton's version. But when Whitney got it, took it to a whole new level. So happy Women's History Month to my girl, Whitney Houston. May you rest in peace, Whitney. All right, let's get talking to Dr. Peterson. My friends on Facebook, my friends on YouTube, out there ready to hear this knowledge and the nuggets that are about to be dropped by Dr. Ralph Peterson. Welcome, Dr. Ralph, to Talking with Dr. Donna.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm excited to have you tonight. And we're just going to talk tonight about our GI health, our gut health. What can we do to make sure that we are healthy? What all the things we need to know. It's confusing out there. We have so many different recommendations and people don't know really what to do. So I brought you on tonight to really help us out.
Okay.
So let's start with the first question that people have been asking, which is, what is the current recommendations for screening? When am I supposed to get a colonoscopy? Do I even need a colonoscopy? When is that supposed to happen?
Well, you just stated that the second leading cause of death in humans in America is cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Look at cancer in women and say, okay, what's the cancer cause of death in women? Number one would be death. We're talking about lungs. Number two would be breast. Number three would be colorectal cancer. If you move to men and ask that same question, what caused cancer death in men? Number one would be lungs. Number two would be prostate. Number three would be colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer always in the mix. Now, if you put men and women together and ask, okay, what's the most common cause of cancer death? Since the number two cause of cancer death after heart disease would be lungs. Number two is colorectal cancer. So cancer of the colon is very prevalent. It's something I look for on a daily basis in patients who refer to me with different symptoms. We can talk about that later to make sure that we catch cancer early, because once you catch cancer early, it's curable. And if you catch it early, it's treatable.
All right.
We tend to catch it late, and that's the problem. We don't like catching it late. 25% of the people, we catch cancer late when it's already somewhere else, either in the liver or in the lungs, somewhere else where it's difficult to treat at that point. Yeah.
All right. So I know there's been some question about, should we get a colonoscopy? Should we get that every year? What age should we be when we get our colonoscopy? Should I be 55? Should I be 50? 45? So much information out there. What is your answer? When should we get screened for colorectal cancer?
Let me give you the answer. Here's the
Okay.
answer. I got an answer since I've been doing this for so long. The American Cancer Society in 2018 said 45. We were at 50. It moved down to 45. The United States Preventive Health Services Task Force recently said, okay, 45. Why that's important is because now the insurance will pay for diagnostic procedures that are done at that age, even if you have no symptoms. The problem with that is, to me, 45 is too late. So I'm being very radical. You're hearing a very radical opinion. I think we need to be outliers, particularly as African Americans, since we are high on the list of people dying of colorectal cancer more than any other race. I personally think that we need to be screened at 30, not with a colonoscopy, but with a fit test. Let me define the difference in the different testing. First of all, colonoscopy is the gold standard. No question about it. It's the gold standard because if you find something, you can take care of it right then and there. But there are two other tests. But let me tell you about a study that was done in 2014, if I may, out of New England Journal of Medicine. They scoped 10,000 people. Of those 10,000 people that they scoped, 665 of them had cancer of the colon. But at the same time, they did a FIT test, the one that you're talking about, but they also did a Cologuard test, which is a multi-targeted FIT test. It's a little bit more sophisticated than a FIT test. And what they found of those 65 folks who had cancer diagnosed by colonoscopy, 60 of them was diagnosed by that multi-targeted FIT test, which is very important. Of those who had 65 had cancer, 48 was diagnosed by the FIT test. So the FIT test didn't pick it up as much, but it did pick it up in 74% of the patients. But what they also found out of those 10,000 patients is that 757 of them had advanced lesion, not quite cancer, precancerous lesion. Precancerous lesion means it's close to cancer, but not quite cancer. It's going in the direction of cancer, a villus adenoma, or pure villus adenoma, or tubular villus adenoma. We're more concerned, or a sessile polyp. Forgive me the name, but that's what they're called. A sessile polyp is flat, about 1 centimeter in length, hard to find sometimes. Sometimes we might miss it. Most time we don't if we're really paying attention. But those can be cancer. So when you look at the 757 folks who had colonoscopy with they found these abnormal polyps. If you look at the Cologuard test only picked it up in 42% of the patients. FIT test only picked it up in like 24% of the patients. So it was a lower number, but it's okay. Because when you look at the 10,000 people who had a colonoscopy and all those other ones who were perfectly normal, the Cologuard showed 10% false positive. The FIT test only showed 4% false positive. So the FIT test is more specific and it's cheaper. It only costs $15 a year to do a FIT test. So I always ask my patient, is your butt worth $1.50? Yes, no. The reason that's important because here comes the radical change. I am recommending, you hear it on your show first.
Okay.
We start at 30 years old with the FIT test.
Okay.
Insurance will not pay for it because the American Cancer Society didn't make that recommendation, because the United States Preventive Health Service Task Force to make that recommendation. I am making a recommendation because you need to save your butt. You should do that FIT test on your birthday month. You want to save your butt so you can live another year.
Okay.
So when you do the test, if you do it every year and it becomes positive, you take that positive result to your doctor. Now the insurance must pay for something because you brought in a test that's positive. You're saying, hey, I got something. Here's a good example. Take Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
He died of colon cancer at 44. If we waited to 45 to scope him, we missed it. Of course we missed it. He went to the doctors in his 30s, 37, 38, said, hey, I'm bleeding. I'm losing weight. I have a change in my bowel habits. I don't smoke. I don't drink a lot of alcohol. These are all risk factors I'm talking about.
Right.
What is going on with me? Well, let's do a colonoscopy. That should be done. They found cancer that already had metastasized. If he had done the FIT test at 30, they'd have found something. That is the point of what I'm saying. So the recommendation by Dr. Peterson, FIT test at 30, do it every year on your birthday. When you get 45, FIT test remain negative, then you do your first colonoscopy at 45. If you're negative at 45, you're negative, then you do the FIT test annually every year for the next 10 years and then repeat the colonoscopy.
Okay.
So that's the recommendation.
Okay, that's great. You know, you and I had a conversation about my own battle with my health plan to get a colonoscopy because I'm 50 and they wanted to just continue to do a FIT test. And you gave me some advice. So I'm going to see if you can pass that along. What if you're 45 and you decide and you want to go in and get a colonoscopy, but your health plan, your doctor won't say yes? What advice do you give?
You look at them and say, look, refer me to Dr. Peterson. He's going to scope me at 45. Number one. Number two, number two, you can look at your provider and say, listen, I read the recommendation. American Cancer Society said 45. I read the recommendation. United States Preventive Health Service Task Force says 45. I read the recommendation. I am at risk. I'm African American. You need to scope me. Oh no, I'm not African American. I'm white, but I smoke a lot. Oh no, I'm Asian and I don't smoke a lot, but I drink a lot. So those are risk factors that triggers the colonoscopy to be performed at 45. So you see, their butt is not on the line. Your butt is on the line. You got to remember who butt is on the line.
Right.
Forget how I said it, but I want people to remember this.
That's right.
So that's why you should have it done at 45. It's a no-brainer. They would do it. Right. If not, I'm here for you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm calling you. I'm calling you next week, right? All right. So I hope you all heard that. If any questions for Dr. Peterson, please put them in the chat and we'll make sure to get to them at the end. All right, so we talked about the different screening tests. So you talked about the FIT test and you talked about a Cologuard test, which is a little different than the FIT test. Can you go back over the difference between the two? Because there's some questions about it in the chat.
Okay, very good. The Cologuard is a FIT test. It's also a FIT test, but it also targets the abnormal DNA structures that the polyp or the cancer or the tumor might bring. It targets those as well. The FIT test doesn't. The FIT test merely is a fecal immunochemical test. It's antibodies looking for hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is part of your red blood cells. And once it finds those hemoglobin in your lower GI tract, it says there's some bleeding going on because polyps are very fragile. Cancer is very fragile. deadly, but nevertheless fragile, and they tend to bleed. And so you pick up the bleeding that you can't see. You don't know you've been bleeding. You're making plans to go on your trip, or you're doing something totally different, and this cancer is growing in you, which is why you want to be screened at those ages that I mentioned, starting with 30 with the FIT test, total colonoscopy at 45. So that's the difference between the two. The multi-targeted FIT test, Cologuard, looks for abnormal DNA structure. The FIT test only looks for blood in the stool.
All right, great. Thank you. So we started talking a little bit about colon cancer, and as you started out the show, you talked about colorectal cancer being the #2 cancer. What are some of the symptoms and signs of colorectal cancer? What should we be concerned about?
First of all, it's too late when you get them. Let's start with that. But you might be blessed enough to maybe have some dark stools. You don't know why your stools are dark. You don't know why you're bleeding, see bright red blood. You don't know why you have bloating or change in bowel habits. You don't know why you're losing weight. You don't know why all of a sudden you have gas and abdominal pain. Or maybe you have iron deficiency anemia and you're not sure why, because you stop your menses and you say, why am my blood count is low? So those are some of the signs and symptoms that people present with. Keep in mind that a majority of patients present with nothing. So you really want to think about screening as opposed to waiting for signs and symptoms.
Wow. Thank you. So when you think about, the average Black person, a lot of those symptoms you said can be for a number of different things.
Absolutely.
So if you have those symptoms, what do you recommend and suggest if you feel like you're bloated or you do have anemia and you have already gone through menopause, so you're not having a cycle, but you find yourself anemic? What's
How
your
old are
steps?
you? What age are you talking about?
Let's see. I'm 55.
Well, and you have not had a colonoscopy?
And I had a colonoscopy, but I had a colonoscopy 5 years ago because my doctor said it was clean and I didn't need to have another one.
Okay, so you're in that gray zone at 5 to 10 years, you're in that gray zone and you still have symptoms. Well, we start trying to figure out why you have what you have. Sometimes I challenge you with medication. We go either with natural medication or pharmaceutical drugs, and we treat the IBS, believing that it might be psychosomatically related, stress and anxiety, which we live with. One of the causes, I believe, of colorectal cancer. You won't read it anywhere, but I believe it is. And so we try to figure out what do you have before we start putting another tube in. Maybe we repeat the FIT test. Have you been doing an annual FIT test? Has it been negative all the time? That would be my question to you. If you answer yes to that, then maybe you might want to reconsider having another colonoscopy to make sure we're not missing anything. We want to make sure you don't have colorectal cancer because it's something treatable and preventable if we do the right thing by you, the patient.
Okay, great. Thank you. How often should you have a colonoscopy? So you said get a colonoscopy and then a FIT test every year. And then when should I have another colonoscopy? If I did my colonoscopy at 45, it was negative. I do my FIT test every year. When should I have that another colonoscopy?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years later. Yeah.
Okay.
10 years later, bearing that there's no presenting symptom that suggests that we should repeat the colonoscopy.
Great. All right. So every 10 years, only if your first one was negative, right?
Yes.
What if you found
negative? And make sure you throw in an annual FIT test.
Yes.
Save your butt on your birthday. Save your butt on your birthday, man.
Save your butt on your birthday. I like
Keep that in mind. Absolutely.
What if you found something on my colonoscopy? It was like something precancerous, a polyp. You removed it, and it didn't turn into cancer. Am I also getting a colonoscopy every 10 years, or am I getting it before 10 years?
Oh, excellent question. Here's how that works. I do a colonoscopy on you, and we get to a certain part of, let's say, the left side of your colon, descending colon, and I find a polyp. I lasso it, I cut it, I take it out of you. We send it to the lab. They come back saying the head of that polyp had cancer in it.
Okay.
The part where I cut was normal. That means I removed cancer. You don't have any in you. It's gone. Oh, well, they could say the head of it had cancer and that part of that cut also had cancer. That means that cancer is still in you. That's what it means. In that case, I tend to refer my patient to UC San Francisco. They develop a great new technique. Instead of cutting you, is going in with another endoscope, and they scoop it out. They go below the surface and scoop it out. We call it endoscopic mucosal resection. EMR, that's a great technique. So remove it that way and it's gone. Your cancer's gone. You don't have to have surgery. We removed all your cancer. I'm happy for you.
That's great. I think, for you out there who are watching, this is like really important that you get specific about your findings when you go to the doctor. So that if they say, well, we found some cancer, so Dr. Peterson just told you, where was that cancer? Was it at the top or was it where we cut in by the colon? Super important out there, you guys, that you get very specific about the answers to these questions, that you write them down so that if something else comes up, you can ask your doctor, you can ask someone else to maybe help you interpret it. But you have to know the specifics. All right. Okay, let's see. All right, I think there's lots of questions, but I'll get to them in a little bit. All right, so let's talk. We talked about cancer and diet and how we can keep our colons healthy. What do you recommend for us to keep our GI tract healthy?
Okay, well, if we look at common causes of colon cancer, and we're really not sure if they are, but they're certainly associated with heavy alcohol use, smoking, obesity, inactivity, too much meat consumption, less fiber consumption. Those are things that are associated with colon cancer. But we have a gut, and that gut has a lot of bacteria in it, good bacteria in it. And those bacteria there is to help us digest the food when certain enzymes cannot do it. It's to help bring about certain nutrients to our body. It's to help build the gut wall because of the fatty acids that are made by these species, virus, fungus, bacteria, whatever they might be. So you want to feed them healthy food. You want to feed them. Some people feed with probiotics, some with prebiotics, right? To get for those bacterium or the lactose bacillus. These are ones that they go by and just say, let me make my gut happy. And that's a good thing to do. Otherwise, there was a study that was done in the Bible. It was in the book of Daniel, first chapter, where I forget the name, I think it's King Jehoiakim. And he was very happy for Daniel. And he liked Daniel. And he was going to let Daniel do anything. He told Daniel, here, go eat with my homies. You can eat all the meat and have all the wine. You're going to Daniel said, hold it. That's not what I do. I eat God's food. And he said, let's do a 10-day study. I eat my food. Your people eat their food. Let's see who looks the best. At the end of 10 days, by the way, they were eating vegetables and seeds that, God's plant. And they just look much better. And that's true here today, too. When you look at it, I have a list of things. I just want to mention them. Fruits, vegetables, teas, coffee, red wine, dark chocolate, all are helpful.
Hey.
That will help the diversity of your gut microbiome. When you help that, then that's what's going to help you be okay. Because some of the things that those natural species make for you is they make butyrate. And butyrate is known to suppress inflammation. They did a study, and I like studies because it points us in a direction. In South Africa, rural South Africa, they switched diets on them. They say, give me 2 weeks of processed food, hamburgers, French fries, that's what you eat. And they noticed after 2 weeks that their colon was very inflamed. They said, wow, your colon's inflamed, you're going towards cancer. Then they flipped the script, came to African Americans who eat them fried food, and they said, well, we don't have you eat fruits and vegetables. And guess what? They all got better. The bloating went away, the diarrhea went away, the constipation went away. They just felt overall better. So, we talk about diet. You mentioned that earlier. You really don't have a choice here.
Yeah.
If you really want to live right, you really got to get back to what God has done for you and eat his kind of food. Then you know what kind of food to eat. Then there's no question. The less processed food you eat, the less meat you eat, the more fiber that you eat, because fiber feeds that diversity in your gut to make you healthy. So that's the key for me, eating the right kind of food and dealing with stress the best you can. Stress is part of the mix here. Say it or not say it, I really think that's why we lead the list as African American, because we're all under stress, we're all under thinking when you're doing the right thing, you're still being blamed for stuff. So stress, if you can handle that stress, and the way I tell people to handle stress, you need to take a break.
Right.
Everybody needs a break. You want to be a kid again. And my wife and I, we try to be a kid every month.
That's great.
But
Now,
yeah,
I heard you mention fiber, and I think that's great. And we always hear about fiber, and there's different ways in which we can get our fiber. Is there one way that's better to get your fiber than another? Like, is it okay to go to Costco and buy that big tube of, powdered fiber that I can just add to my water, juice, or whatever I'm drinking? Or is it better that I try to get it from natural?
well, yeah, always natural fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes. You always want to be as natural as you can, because then you're talking about, the pH of the substance in which you're eating. Kellogg's all brand cereal, brand muffin. Get your fiber in. It's helping you. It's not hurting you. It helps your bowel habits too, whether you have constipation, diarrhea. So you want to eat the fiber. You want to be as natural as you can. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're pretty fit. Do you have any tips what do you do to keep yourself fit?
I try to, live what I talk about. That's the first thing. I try to exercise. I have a program. I have several trainers that I work out with. Don't want to do it, get lazy at time, but I remind myself at 72 years of age that, hey, I got to do something. I just can't sit here and do nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So, yes. Thank you.
Yes. Well, Dr. Peterson, you have been amazing. So many accolades on the chat saying thank you. And let's see if there's any questions. Is eating organic food important for the gut? Organic versus not organic?
Preferably organic. Be as organic as you can. Absolutely. Less milk, less sugar, less soda. Sodas are hurting us. People don't read them labels on soda. 5 grams of sugar, 5 grams, hear me well, is about a teaspoon of sugar. 5 grams, about a teaspoon of sugar. So when you look at that, whatever you're consuming, you look at the number of calories and look at glucose or sugar, if you will, it's going to say how many grams of sugar in there. You just go in the 50s or 40, you divide that by 5 and say, wow, there's 8 teaspoons of sugar in this thing? I can't drink this.
Wow. Yeah.
And remember, it's taking the microbiome, your gut microbiome, and making it worse.
Yeah.
You're developing terrible bacteria, terrible fungus, terrible virus, the ones you don't want. And Candida is probably the biggest one, loving sugar. I think Candida must whisper in people here, go and get some sugar. I need some more sugar. Go give me some sugar here. You know you like that cake.
Yes, I know. It talks to me every day. I have to say la 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 la.
Work out tomorrow morning. We're going to have the cake tonight. That kind of thing.
That's right. All right, here's another question. Do you recommend doing a cleansing with Colonics?
First of all, you're going in the opposite direction. I don't mind it. It has its perks. It has its perks. But if you can find one to push things through in the direction which stools come out, that's even better. For example, when we do colonoscopies, we give you a solution that help do it in the right direction. That is a colonic in a way, because people get awfully clean. I see some spick and span colon, then I see some very dirty colon. So prefer the natural way, but the high colonics are not hurtful.
Okay. Does it affect the digestive system if you don't have a gallbladder?
If you look at the gallbladder and ask what is the purpose of the gallbladder concentrate bowels. So you eat all that fat, it has that extra pump to give it more bowels, so it can, bowel is what help you absorb your fat, because fat and water don't mix. You need that bowel from the gallbladder. When the gallbladder is removed, the ducts are still in place and the bowel is just constantly coming down. So you have no problem with that. Yeah.
All right. So if you don't have your gallbladder, is there anything different that you should do or eat?
Well, you'll be mindful. Remember, bowel is to help you absorb fat. You have to maybe modify how much fat you consume now, based on how much bowel your liver actually makes for you. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. All right. Will probiotics and prebiotics help with the preventative maintenance of colon cancer?
I believe they will. I believe they will. Still no substitute for being screened. I am an endoscopist. I hated to go get screened. Oh man, I had to go get screened. Who's gonna scope me? But but yes, You still have to do those preventive things because, once again, cancer is preventable if you catch it early
All
and treat
right.
it. Okay.
All right. Someone said, you said that you've seen a dirty colon. What is a dirty colon?
Well, maybe the person didn't do the prep correctly. Maybe they couldn't tolerate the prep. Maybe they didn't do an enema the morning of the prep. So when I take a look inside the colon, something you can't see as well because you have all that mucus material inside. Some of the feces are still there, not totally clean, and you can miss a flat lesion. Remember I told you about that sessile polyp is flat. You can miss
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
miss it. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's another tip. It's important if you're going to get a colonoscopy that you do the prep correctly, right? So that you give the doctor the best chance to be
Absolutely.
able to see everything in the colon when they're in there, right?
Absolutely. Right. And we think that's the worst part of the colonoscopy is the prep.
Yeah. All right. Is high cholesterol bad for your liver?
Well, cholesterol is made by the liver. That's who makes the cholesterol.
Yeah.
Your liver makes it, and it puts it out there because you need to have cholesterol. You might have high cholesterol for other reasons. As another note, but because I'm did internal medicine, you might have it because it could be family history, more so than anything else. Or maybe you eat too much fatty foods. You're bringing in too much cholesterol for that reason. But what's more important than the cholesterol is the ratio between HDL and LDL. That ratio is what's important because LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, is only bad when it's a certain number, over 160. HDL at any number, high number, over 40, is a good number. So we look for that ratio, divide it out, and you get a number, and it tells you your risk for heart disease in that case.
All right. Wow. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Just a wealth of knowledge and information. Everyone is saying thank you so much. They don't feel embarrassed about asking their questions at all. So that's great. A sign of a great doctor. Anything else that you really want to make sure that we know that I may not have asked you that we can really help us with our gut health? Anything else you want to tell us?
I would say the main thing I want to leave with everybody, save your butt. You do not want to hear the words, you have cancer. You want to avoid that. Or you have cancer, but we took it out, that's good language. Because I know people that have to tell them you have cancer and it's over here, it's over there. And we know that the lifespan of making 5 years now is around 10%. Chance of making it 5 years once you have cancer in the liver from your colon. So you want to get screened. Take advantage, get screened, check your butt on every month of your birthday month so you can live another year.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I hope you learned so much from Dr. Peterson. I hope you took notes because he was dropping nuggets throughout this entire episode. As you know, we are paying attention here on Talking with Dr. Donna to the food of the month. And our food of the month this month is broccoli. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I know you love it. I love broccoli. So many different ways to eat broccoli. Thank everyone who's been participating in our food of the month, who's been showing pictures. Last month, beans, we did all sorts of different types of beans, and you shared your recipe for beans. A lot of that Nigerian beans with plantains, that looked delicious. So I want you to continue on with that this month. Broccoli is in the cruciferous family. That's the same family with kale and cabbage and Brussels sprouts, all great green vegetables. They help to fight cancer. They help to build your immune system, which we so need right now. I need it right now in this house, trying to continue to stay COVID-free despite having 2 kids with COVID. But it's really to help boost your immune system. And I want to encourage you this month to cook it, yes, to eat it, yes, but I also want to encourage you to think about trying to eat it raw, which has extra benefits to it. We'll talk more about that throughout the month. But our food of the month is broccoli. So join in. As always, send me your posts, send me your recipes, show me what you're cooking, show me what you're making with our food of the month, broccoli. All right, well, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Talking with Dr. Donna. Remember, if you have not already subscribed, please do so right now. Subscribe, hit the bell icon so you know when we go live. And we go live when? Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You have an appointment with the doctor. So until next week, take care, continue to wear your mask and social distance, and hope that COVID does not enter into your house. Love you all. If you have a question for Dr. Donna, please do leave it on my page and I will be happy to answer the question for you.